We're in the midst of this AI explosion, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much more than just cool gadgets. I mean, the future of AI, it really hinges on something much deeper, right? Making sure these systems we're building, these powerful systems, actually reflect,
Yeah.
us, human values.
It's the human element.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And that's what we're diving into today, right? Guided by this new white paper, really timely, from the World Economic Forum, October 2024, AI Value Alignment, Guiding Artificial Intelligence Towards Shared Human Goals. Catchy title. So before we get ahead of ourselves, what do they even mean by AI value alignment?
Okay, so in essence, it's about this. It's about ensuring that AI systems operate in a way that aligns with human values, right?
Yeah.
Ethical principles, societal norms, it's all connected.
It's not just about making AI nice, which, by the way, is way more complicated than it sounds.
Exactly, because human values, they're not straightforward, not at all. They're intricate, they vary across cultures. Heck, they can even contradict each other. What's considered fair in one context might not be seen the same way somewhere else.
It's true. Think about something like a loan approval AI. Sounds pretty neutral, right? But if it's not properly aligned, if we don't think about those values very carefully, could it unintentionally perpetuate existing biases?
Absolutely, and that's just one example, right? The consequences, especially in areas like healthcare, transportation, law enforcement, could be huge. We might not even realize what's happening until it's too late.
And that's the scary part. So how do we prevent that? How do we actually bake those values in? Build AI that reflects our, humanity? I think the WEF paper had some interesting approaches.
It did. It highlights two main pathways. One's technical, the mechanisms built into the AI itself. This involves carefully selecting training data to minimize bias. And then there are techniques like, this is a mouthful, inverse reinforcement learning.
Inverse reinforcement learning. Okay, for those of us who don't have a PhD in AI, break that down a bit.
Okay, imagine an apprentice learning from a master. It observes how humans make decisions, especially in those ethically tricky situations, and then tries to learn those patterns.
So it's not just about hard-coded rules, it's about learning to make judgment calls based on human behavior.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
And then the second approach is about us. The human side of things, organizational considerations. This emphasizes the need for diverse input. It can't just be engineers. We need ethicists, policymakers, social scientists, and, this is crucial, input from the people who will actually be using these systems.
It's like checks and balances for AI, making sure it reflects a broader range of values.
Right. And the white paper gets really specific, which I appreciate. It provides real-world examples of these approaches in action. For example, there's a whole section on AI in healthcare and how cultural differences impact something as fundamental as patient autonomy.
Okay, I'm hooked. How do you even begin to design for something that nuanced, those cultural differences, in something as important as healthcare?
Well, imagine you're developing an AI to assist doctors, right, with diagnoses, treatment recommendations.
Okay, makes sense.
In some cultures, patient autonomy might mean giving the patient all the information and letting them decide. But in others, family members play a much more central role in medical decisions.
It's true. It's a perspective I hadn't really considered before, but it makes total sense.
So you have to build the AI with that cultural sensitivity in mind, right? Maybe the AI offers options for incorporating family input or presents information in a way that aligns with those cultural preferences.
It's like you're teaching the AI to speak different cultural languages.
And to do that, you need people from those cultures involved in the design process right from the start.
Absolutely.
The more diverse those voices, the better our chances of creating AI that genuinely reflects shared human values. And that leads into another important concept from the paper, which is this idea of AI red lines.
AI red lines. Okay, that sounds a little ominous. Tell me more.
Think of them as the ultimate no-go zones, non-negotiable boundaries that AI should never cross, no matter what.
So like those sci-fi scenarios where the AI goes rogue? Give me a real-world example. What would an AI red line look like in practice?
Okay, let's say in a world where AI controls our nuclear arsenal. A chilling thought.
Don't even put that out there.
But that's why you need the red lines. In that scenario, an AI red line might be that the AI can never, under any circumstance, launch a weapon without human authorization. Period.
Full stop. That seems like a pretty reasonable red line. But it does make you think, right? Who gets to define those lines? How do you enforce them? What happens if somehow an AI does cross a line?
Those are the million-dollar questions. And the paper doesn't pretend to have all the answers.
Rightfully so.
But the very fact that we're asking them now before we're facing, a full-blown AI uprising, That's what matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It means we're starting to have those tough conversations about the ethical implications of this technology before it's too late.
It's a lot to process, but man, it's important stuff. Anything else from, this is kind of the first part of the paper, right, that really stood out to you before we take a quick pause?
You know, they made it very clear that this isn't a set it and forget it type of deal. AI value alignment isn't a one-time fix, right? It's not like we program in our values and then we're done.
Right.
It takes constant work, vigilance, because honestly, both AI and our own values are constantly evolving.
It's an ongoing conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like any relationship, it takes work to keep things healthy.
Exactly.
Let's take a quick pause to gather our thoughts. When we come back, we'll be diving into your questions on AI value alignment. Don't go anywhere. We're back and ready to dive into some listener questions about AI value alignment. You all have, as always, brought your A game, so let's get right to it. This first one really cuts to the chase. All this talk about values is great, but who ultimately gets to decide? Is it tech companies? Governments? Philosophers? Who's the AI morality police here?
It's the question, isn't it? And the paper's pretty clear. There's no easy answer. They really push for this multi-stakeholder approach, one that doesn't just leave it up to Silicon Valley.
Makes sense, right? We wouldn't want just one group setting the values for something as impactful as this. So who else needs a seat at the table?
We need ethicists, policymakers, people who study society.
Yeah.
And this is huge. We need input from the people who will actually be using these systems, everyday people.
Otherwise, you risk building an AI that reflects the values of a tiny few, not humanity as a whole.
Exactly. And it circles back to that earlier point about cultural differences. What's considered fair, ethical, even just okay in one part of the world might not be in another.
So it's about finding that balance, aligning AI with what we share as humans, but recognizing those goals might be interpreted in different ways.
Precisely. Okay, next question. They talk about those non-negotiable boundaries, the red lines, but how do we actually make those stick? What's stopping a rogue AI from just, ignoring them?
Yeah, how do you put limits on something as potentially powerful as this? It's a valid question.
That's where those technical mechanisms we talked about earlier come in. Building safeguards, limits, right into the code itself. So the AI is actually prevented from taking certain actions.
So like hard-coded rules it can't break.
In a way, yes, but it's more than that, right? It's about being able to see in. Transparency, accountability, making sure we understand how the AI is making decisions. And this is crucial, being able to step in if we need to.
So we need to be able to look inside the AI's brain, understand its decision-making.
Exactly. New tools, new techniques. It's not enough to just build it. We have to understand it.
Okay, last question for this section, and it's a big one. This all sounds incredibly complex, not to mention expensive. Is achieving true AI value alignment even realistic? Or are we chasing some, utopian ideal?
It's a massive undertaking, no question. You're trying to bridge this gap between how machines think, pure logic, and the messy reality of human values. And the paper acknowledges this, right? This journey, it's not going to be easy. There will be setbacks, tough questions.
So no guarantees, but a goal worth striving for.
Absolutely, because the alternative, developing AI without this, it's just not acceptable. It's a risk we can't take. If we don't address this now, we risk creating AI that actually makes things worse, exacerbates inequalities, undermines our autonomy, and ultimately, does more harm than good.
Because with great power
comes great responsibility.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to guide this technology in a direction that benefits everyone, that reflects our shared values, and avoids those unintended consequences, which, let's be real, are scary to even think about.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, this next listener question takes us from the philosophical to, well, the geopolitical. So this next question, it really highlights this tension, right? This global tension that's playing out. They ask, the white paper mentions different countries creating their own AI ethics guidelines, which makes sense. But what happens if those guidelines clash? Are we heading for like an AI Cold War with different versions of ethical AI battling it out?
It's a valid concern. We're already seeing this fragmentation, right? Different regions, they're emphasizing different values, different priorities. The EU, for example, they're hyper-focused on this human-centric approach with their AI Act. Big emphasis on fundamental rights.
Which makes sense, given their history with, data privacy regulation.
Exactly. Meanwhile, you've got China. Their approach to AI ethics, often framed around economic growth, social management, so naturally, that leads to a different set of considerations, different guidelines.
So how do we navigate this? Do we even need, like, a single unified set of global AI ethics?
The million-dollar question. And the white paper, it doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it does stress dialogue, Collaboration, finding ways to align AI with, those shared human goals, even if the interpretation of those goals differs between cultures.
Finding that common ground, even amidst the, let's be honest, the messiness of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that some values, they just transcend those boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Human dignity, autonomy, those should be at the heart of any AI, no matter where it's built, who's using it.
That's like we need a global AI ethics translator or
Yeah.
something to bridge those different perspectives, but hold on to those core, universal principles.
I like that. And what's even more interesting is that AI itself might be part of that solution. Imagine AI that helps us understand each other better, different cultures, different ethical frameworks, even predicting points of conflict before they blow up.
So AI becoming a tool to make itself more ethically aligned? Whoa, that's pretty meta.
Right. But it gets at something crucial. This isn't just a tech problem, it's a human one. And we have to face it head on, together. If we want a future where AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Well said. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into AI value alignment. And wow, we covered some ground, huh?
And we've barely scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
Always. But hopefully this deep dive, it's giving you a better sense of what's at stake, why this conversation matters, and why we need to be having it now, not 10 years from now.
The choices we make today, they'll echo for generations to come.
There's no overstating it, really, is there? So, on that note, let's leave you with this. This really got me thinking. From the WEF paper, they propose that AI, at its core, it's a mirror to us, to humanity. It reflects back our values, our biases, our dreams, everything. So as we build these incredible machines, maybe the most important question we need to ask is not just what we want AI to be, but what kind of humans do we want to be?
Let that simmer. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.